NHL regular season recap night 148, 12 games on the evening, and we're kicking it off with maybe the worst of the bunch. The Sharks, who have struggled to win games all year, and the Penguins, who couldn't win a game over the last 2 weeks if their lives depended on it, but they finally get 2 points tonight. Achari, Zetterlund, and Vlasic scoring in the first. It doesn't look great for Pittsburgh early, but from the second on, they actually looked pretty solid. Carter, Malkin, and Kostin scoring in the second, so we're tied at 3, headed to the third, where the Penguins really pick it up. It's Ludwig, Raquel, and Rust all scoring. Ironically enough, though, they got outshot 13-4 in the third period and got outshot 32-31 throughout the game, so not really the most promising of showings, despite the fact that they won by a final of 6-3. They can thank Magnus Krona for that. It wasn't a great night from him. He's been very on and off. One night very good, one night not so much. 25 of 30 tonight for an .833 save percentage, while Tristan Jarry, 29 of 32 for a .906, the much better of the two, and he finally gets the Penguins the 2 points that they desperately need. The Blue Jackets hosting the Ottawa Senators, two of the bottom dwellers in the East, and it ended up being a relatively entertaining game. The Blue Jackets scoring 15 seconds in thanks to Boone Jenner, and they held the lead until about 15 minutes left in the game. Nylander would add another goal to make it 2-0, 5:21 in, but Claude Giroux scores to make it a 2-1 game. Tim Stützle ties it with about 7.5 to go. We head all the way to a shootout where Claude Giroux gets the game winner with his patented shootout slap shot. He blasts it past Merzlikins. He's standing there like, what the hell just happened? Giroux just casually walks off the ice, skates off the ice, whatever. Great ending to this game. Both goalies faced 37 shots. They both stopped 35, and of course Merzlikins gives up the extra one in the shootout that costs them the second point. I don't think either of these teams care too much for that point at this point. They are all in the bidding for Macklin Celebrini. So the Blue Jackets kind of helped out by not getting that second point. Ottawa not likely to get that first overall pick, so they will take the 2 points. It's a 3-2 shootout final here for the Senators. The Sabres hosting the New York Islanders. This is a big game with some relatively big playoff implications. Buffalo, the last couple weeks, has propelled themselves back into the playoff race in the East. They're taking on the Islanders, who currently hold the last wildcard spot, and they blank them 4-0. UPL 21 of 21, and the Sabres put 36 shots on Ilya Sorokin. Olofsson, Cousins, and Benson all scoring in the second, where the Sabres really popped off. Benson adds the empty netter as well. They outshot the Islanders 16-6 in that second frame, and that was really all it took. 37-21 on the shots as a whole. Sorokin was still pretty good in this one. Obviously did not get any goal support, and it's impossible to win games that way. So a huge 2 points for the Sabres. For the Islanders, they're going to want to regain pretty quickly here, as there's a couple teams breathing right down their neck. It's a much tighter race in the East than it is in the West. 4-0 Buffalo here is the final. The Hurricanes taking on the Florida Panthers, and we had another 21-save shutout in this one going to Freddie Anderson, of course, of the Hurricanes. Seth Jarvis scoring with 49 seconds to go in the first. Necas and Kuznetsov in the second, of course, Kuzi's first goal as a Hurricane. And then Andrei Svechnikov adds the empty netter, and it's another 4-0 final. Bobrovsky 31 of 34 for a .912. And then, of course, Anderson 21 of 21 for the shutout. It's a pretty good game from the Canes. I mean, they're playing one of the better teams in the entire NHL, and they looked pretty good all the way around. They outperformed them on the shot column, better on the draws, better on the power play. Really just all around a really solid game from the Canes, and they get rewarded with a 4-0 win and the 2 points. The Lightning hosting the New York Rangers, and Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov just took over tonight entirely. Panarin and Schneider scored the only 2 goals in the first. It looked pretty promising for the Rangers early on, and then things went downhill from there. Point from Kucherov, Duclair from Point and Kucherov. Roslovic would score in the third to make it a 3-2 game for the Rangers, and then Point from Kucherov and Hedman, Stamkos from Cirelli and Point from Kucherov and Hedman, and then Kucherov from Point and Paul. Do we see a common theme here? Yes, it's Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov. Holy smokes, they had a fantastic game. Vasi, 25 of 28, not fantastic from him, but enough for the win when your guys score 6 goals. Shesterkin, of course, not all that great tonight, 22 of 27 for an .815 in the losing effort. They still sit just ahead of the Hurricanes in that first spot in the Metro, but very much would have liked to get those 2 points tonight. For the Lightning, obviously, this is a pretty big one. They're not out of it in the playoff race just yet, trying to create some more space between them and the teams chasing them down. So they will absolutely take this win, despite the fact that it wasn't the prettiest on the defensive side. Very pretty on the offensive side, though. 6-3 over the Rangers is the final. The Bruins visiting the Canadiens, and kind of a surprisingly low-scoring game in this one. The only 2 goals in regulation coming in the first from Danton Heinen and Nick Suzuki. They're 12th and 26th, respectively. Zacha and Pasternak with the assists on the Heinen goal. Slivkovsky with the assist on the Suzuki goal. We head all the way to overtime without any more goals, and 25 seconds in, Jake DeBrusk scores the game winner from Marchand and Lindholm. Linus Ullmark with a pretty solid game, 18 of 19. Not all that busy, but it's still a 947. For Sam Montembeault, he was solid, just not quite solid enough. 22 of 24 for a 917. This is the outcome we all expected, but maybe not the results to get us there. Nonetheless, 2 points for the Bees. Canadians sneak one out of it. It's a 2-1 final here for the Bruins. The Red Wings hosting the Coyotes, and you'd think the Red Wings would snap back into form tonight, back at home against a team that's really not all that great, but they find a way to lose once again. It's a 4-1 final. Cooley and Raymond trading goals in the first. Michael Carcone with the only goal in the second, and then Nick Bukestad and Clayton Keller in the third. Keller's goal being the empty netter. It's a 4-1 final here for the Yotes. As far as the goalies go, Connor Ingram with a pretty good bounce-back game, 28 of 29 for a 966. Alan Lyon. Who the fuck is Alan Lyon? Not so great, 23 of 26 for an 885. They do get kind of bailed out by the Islanders, losing to the Sabres, so they're still tied in points. Of course, point percentage still goes to the Islanders, but the Sabres now just 3 points behind them alongside Washington. Jersey winning tonight, so they get a bit closer. It's not a great picture here for the Red Wings, and of course they have one of the higher games played totals of the bunch there, so we'll see what happens. This is a tough loss. This is a game they should absolutely win. Playoff implications or not, they have the flat-out better roster than the Coyotes, but here we are. The Yotes win it 4-1. The Leafs visiting Philadelphia, and this game was over at the end of the first period. Bertuzzi, Holmberg, and Liljegren all scoring, and it's 3-0 after one. Owen Tippett would make it a 3-1 game in the second, but Matthews, Nylander, and Nyes all score in the third to make it 6-1 before Ty Forrester makes it a 6-2 game with about a minute and a half to play. John Tortorella is not going to be happy with this one. The Flyers starting to struggle a bit with getting into the playoffs. They're not all that far ahead of any of the teams really chasing down the wild card teams, never mind some of the wild card teams themselves, so we'll see what happens there, but a tough night from Sam Ersson. He only plays the first period, 9 of 12, a 750 save percentage. Ilya Samsonov, of course, perfectly fine in this one, 26 of 28 for a 929, and more importantly, the 2 points. It's a 6-2 shellacking of the Flyers for the Leafs. The Devils taking on the Dallas Stars, and it was a shaky start here for Jake Allen. He gives up 2 goals on his first 3 shots against to Wyatt Johnston and Craig Smith, but aside from that, it was a really good night for Allen and the Devils. Eric Hollis sandwiched a goal between those 2 Stars goals. Chris Tierney tied it up before the end of the first, and then in the second, it's Dawson Mercer, Timo Meier, and Tomasz Nosek. In the third, Alex Holtz adding another. It's his 14th of the year, and it makes it a 6-2 final in this one as well. Allen ended up going 35 for 37, a 946, one of the better goaltending performances we've already seen from a Devils goalie all year, and it was his first game in a Devils uniform. Jake Ottinger, meanwhile, not all that great, giving up 4 on the first 10 shots he saw. He gets yanked, and of course we see Scott Wedgwood the rest of the night. He gives up a few as well, but again, just not quite enough goal support either way. We know this Devils team is more than capable of scoring. It's just a matter of getting pucks past them. And for the first time in seemingly a pretty long while, the Devils get outshot pretty much 2-1, but win the game 6-2. It's a nice relief for them. They climb a little bit in the standings. They're not out of it just yet. This 6-2 win over Dallas definitely helps them. The Minnesota Wild hosting the Anaheim Ducks, and it was a pretty good game from both of the goalies here. Of course, Marc-Andre Fleury, half as busy as Lucas Dostal, as it should be between these two teams. Zach Bogosian scoring in the first, Kirill Kaprizov scoring in the second. Those are the only 2 goals. Once again, Lucas Dostal proves to be quite good, 29 of 31 for a 935, but Fleury, a perfect 16 of 16 in the shutout effort. The Wild are now just a few points back of Vegas because Vegas lost tonight. We'll go over that game next, but a huge win here. They take care of business against the team, especially when in a playoff race like this, they should definitely be beating. They do just that. It's not a pretty game, but they get it done. 2-0 is the final. The Golden Knights taking on the Flames, and Anthony Mantha scores the first goal in this one with a few minutes to play in the second, but then the Flames completely take over in the third. Sharon Govich ties it, and then Coleman, Coronado, and Coleman again with the empty netter. And it's a 4-1 win here for Calgary, and they creep up just that much further on Vegas as well, but more importantly, they make room for Minnesota to get even closer to creeping into that last wildcard spot. Dustin Wolf with probably his best NHL performance of the year, 28 of 29 for a 966 save percentage and some really really nice saves in there as well. Aiden Hill was not bad by any means. He goes 33 for 36, a 9-17. Just, again, not enough goal support to get the job done. This is a tough loss for the Golden Knights. They're, again, now just a few points up on Minnesota. There's a couple teams right around Minnesota that aren't all that far back as well. This race that was looking to be kind of dead in the water is starting to heat back up a bit, so we'll see what happens over the next few weeks. But it's a huge win for the Flames and maybe a bigger loss for the Golden Knights. 4-1 is the final. Final game of the night here, the Kraken hosting the Washington Capitals, and it was unsurprisingly a low-scoring game between these two teams. Both Charlie Lindgren and Joey Daccord pretty good. No goals until well over halfway through the second period when TJ Oshie scores unassisted on the power play to make it 1-0 Caps headed to the third period. We're about 3.5 minutes in. Oliver Bjorkstrand got his own goal on the power play from Yamamoto and Gord. And then about halfway and some change through the third, Connor McMichael makes it a 2-1 game with a nice little breakaway finish over Joey Daccord's glove side. And that would be the eventual game winner. It's a 2-1 final here. Again, both goalies pretty solid. Lindgren 23 of 24 for a 9.58. Joey Daccord 21 of 23 for a 9.13. Tough loss for the Kraken, big win for the Caps. Both of these teams in pretty similar positions in regard to their playoff hopes. The Caps, I guess, a little bit further ahead of the Kraken, but nonetheless, it's a big win and loss for both of these teams. The Caps will take it, though, 2-1 final once again, and that's it for NHL regular season recap night 148. Obviously, tomorrow's Friday, a lot less games, but Saturday is a huge day. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow, of course. By the way, I have a Discord now. There's like 7 people in it. Feel free to make it 8 or 9 or 10 or however many, looking to grow that and have some fun with you guys, talk about the games that are going on that I eventually recap. So go give that a look. It'll be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.